Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. I had to change the title on Twitch real quickly.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Thank you so much for that, Twitch Prime sub for 6 months there, buddy. There we go. Let's get to the office, shall we? Welcome, everyone, to the Office Hours. This is a Star Citizen kind of talk stream where we can sit here and talk a little bit about Star Citizen. Normally, we do it a little bit later, usually at about 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. But today I decided to do it a little earlier because I'm off for my holiday break, and I've been meaning to do a couple of these that are more friendly towards EU types. So hopefully this is a little bit better. It's later, I know. It's still like, super late in the evening, but it's like still, it's not 2 o'clock in the morning. So thank you so much for that Prime sub there, Ashhole. Let me see if I can get everyone's here on YouTube as well. 5, boom. So those of you who don't know, this is a live broadcast on Twitch that I do for and YouTube for on Thursdays. So I was just streaming before this, streaming some Jumptown. So I was a little bit late. We had a problem in that. That problem was named Jumptown, and we were wrapping it up and trying to get everyone, money equally distributed and such. So it's some fun. We each made about 270,000 per person for the Jumptown event. So we did have a hammerhead. Come out of the water, out of the ground like Shahalud. It's only 12 a.m. now. How is Jumptown? So Jumptown is fun. It's still Star Citizen, so there's still bugs. But it's important to not remember Jumptown with rose-tinted glasses. There was plenty of bugs as well in Star Citizen. During the original Jumptown. I will say it's a different but similar experience, is the best way of putting it. We, just like Jumptown, you will have moments where nobody bothers showing up, and then sometimes at Jumptown you will have the entire server show up. So, like, we had 9 people who locked down Jumptown for 4 hours. And in the process, more like 3 hours. And the process made, collectively, we made almost 3 million. We were going to make more than 3 million, but we had an accident and lost about 20 boxes. So we rode the sand ward before anybody else. Yes. You made $1 billion UEC. You can make a lot solo. If you catch it in the right area, you can solo, if you can load up, because effectively, if you're selling at Grimhex, each box is worth 20K. So it only requires like 5 or 6 boxes to get 100K. So if you're going at solo, if you get 10 boxes, that's 200K. If you get 20 boxes, that's almost $500,000. If you get 30 boxes, it's basically like 50 or 60 boxes, you're at $1 million, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. but it is 1 box every 30 seconds. So you have that issue where someone can come in and just like stop you. How am I liking it compared to the original experience? It's not the original experience, but nothing is the original experience. It's pretty close though. I would say it's fairly close because the paranoia is, and I know a lot of people were like, well, they need to have more investment. Time is an investment. Time is still a major investment because like you could load up all of the ships, everything into a ship and then just get nuked, get bombed or get torpedoed. Yeah. So here's the thing. The event goes on. I'll pull up the new schedule and I'll put it up on the screen so you all can see it. I can find it. So this is the Jumptown schedule. They changed it a little bit because they wanted to make sure that people had the chance to play. There's also Ninetales, which are going on as well. So if you want to do some of that with your buddies, you can do that as well. Which is more fun for PvE experiences as well. So this is the Jumptown 2 schedule. So we just did the first two were this earlier. They're each 6 hours. So it's still going on. It actually ends in about an hour and a half. But you've got about 30 minutes to log on and get to a place and start loading up boxes because at about the hour mark, the last hour, they stop producing boxes, but they still give you an option, the ability to turn in those boxes for an hour. So the next one's going to happen in about 6 hours from then. So about, well, actually less than that because it's 1800, which is... So yeah, on Christmas Eve, or 1 a.m. Christmas Eve. So that'll be at about 8 p.m. my time, which is about 9 p.m. Eastern. So, and that'll go on for 6 hours from there. So ending at about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, Eastern West Coast. How do you participate in the Ninetales? So the Ninetales lockdown will happen on December 28th. How you participate is you just have to be in any of the Crusader Lagrange points, and they'll make an announcement. They make 3 announcements, one 30 minutes before the event, one 20 minutes before the event, or like 10 minutes before the event, and one at when the event starts. And then on your HUD, like on your map, you will see like a marker saying warning lockdown area or whatever. And that's where you go to accept that mission. I work too hard. I don't work hard enough. But this is the time of year when like content is very important to make, just in general, because it's when advertisers have money to burn. So, okay, let me do this real quickly. Right. There you go. It's better. Can't wait to have I have a dozen events running the other time, not all the same time, but coincidentally. I'd like to see it. So here's my suggestion for CIG. My suggestion for CIG is that each mission giver has stages. So you have like missions that you do, and you work up to like an event stage where you go do a mission, an important mission for a mission giver, and then they give you, new missions or the same missions but a little bit harder. Kind of like how you have those reputation tiers where once you reach those certain classification levels, you start getting different styles of missions that is the same thing but like harder or longer or whatever. And one of the things that I would suggest doing is having some amount or like some amount of people completing that specific mission in a mission giver chain that will then unlock a mission, unlock an event to happen at that time. Now I know they're going to do it dynamically and that kind of stuff as well, where like dynamically the mission will happen because something is going on in the server or players did something or whatever. But like a lot of those missions, like say Jumptown, would make a lot of sense to do with some of the like the Klim missions. once they get a certain pile up, that sort of thing. So. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, we're actually going to talk a little bit about the lores today. That's going to be my little capsule for today. We're going to talk about one of the most important systems in the game that you have never heard about. One that affects us here in Stanton, in the game right now, and involves lots of very important and very interesting people in the universe. So stick around for that. Now, I am going to get started with talking a little bit about the fuck-ups. The massive fuck-ups. I wonder how long after the official release we'll make it fully VR. We'll see. I've missed the opportunity to point out that the new Grav-Lev bike should have been a gift to all backers, at least for a limited time. Yeah, it should have been. I'll talk about it in a moment. Give more JPEGs of JPEGs. How about the Caterpillar getting 2 new skins and now has it has a big with its elevators? Has a big with its elevators? What do you mean there, Silk? Steal yourselves, yeah. All right. So for those of you who missed this, yesterday they released 3.16. Congratulations. And I hope CIG has a good, long, and fun break, that they take some time off, they enjoy themselves. They deserve a break. Enjoy it. I'm going to give some critique, some pointed critique that CIG probably already knows, but I'm going to do so in a reflective and in a not critical but constructive manner. So I'll walk you down what happened. The first thing that happened was they ended their Luminalia gift thing, where you had to go onto the website and you download a certain, you got to download like skins or wallpapers or like little things for Spectrum. It was all fine. And the last thing they did was a preview of the new hover bike, which is made by Consolidated Outland, the one that we all knew was coming. It's kind of like people call it the snowmobile, which kind of does look like a snowmobile. Now, here's the problem. Let me show you what it looks like, so I can explain to you why it's a little deceptive. Okay. So, celebrate Luminalia, grab your gifts. Okay, so you go to grab your gifts. Okay, let's go to grab your gifts. It comes down, Spirit of Giving, this loads up. Now, here's the first thing you see. Luminalia Day 12 Digital Goodies Pack in stock, free. Get it free. They don't have any descriptions of what they are. We know that this is a skin, because you can also see other things over here. You got skins here. They could be ships, but it's at least explained later on that they're skins. This is like an in-game set. That's pretty, in general. Now, we've never seen this before. Right? We've never seen this before. So think of somebody who's like, okay, so this is the last day of Luminalia. They're giving gifts. You see this and it says, get it free. One would maybe think that this is a free ship. A free, zero CCU. A thank you from CIG for supporting them. They're giving you a free ship. Now, the only way you could tell it's not is when you pull this up. I'm not going to go to my address because it'll show my address there. It will, actually, let me go back. Is if you see more info, reveal wallpaper. It doesn't even tell you that it's a reveal wallpaper, and if you click the get it free, it just puts it into your basket. Now, I can tell you what happened. They were probably hoping that this ship was going to be, or the hover bike was going to be ready for 3.16. It wasn't. They had to push it. It's okay. So marketing probably had an idea that this was going to be a skin, or maybe just something else was going to happen. Like this was lead you to the checkout page or whatever. But didn't make it, so they decided to do as a kind of a sneak preview. Not a good idea, but it's not like the worst idea CIG's ever had. Oh, look, it's marketing. Hey, whatever, but it ended up not getting ready, so they just made it a preview and use the image, which is likely going to also be the image of the ship itself. And then the website guys just put it into the thing they created for the whole event. Like, they're not marketing, they're just told what to code and what to make. And so they made it. This is a breakdown of communications, is what it is. It's not necessarily, I don't think they were intentionally going, yes, we're going to make people angry. And no, that's not what they were doing. It was this, they screwed up. And I know that Xylo has already come out and said that they want to make everything in game next time, and they've kind of already talked about it. So I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It was a fuck up. But it is something that is important to point out that this is a mistake. Now, this is just the first mistake of 3. Let me go to the other one. Which is the Cutlass Steel. Fantastic video, by the way. This is a great video. I'm not going to play it because I think it has copywritten music on it. I don't want to get struck down, but it's very CCR. This is a Huey. We get it. We get it. It's pretty cool. Watching your own's great, and some interesting screenshots here. I want the Stogie by the CIG. So, this all makes sense. Now, here's where this kind of screws up. I like the skins, too. These skins are fantastic. Like, these are great. These should have been on the Invictus sales, honestly. Those are great. And I want to see more of these skins in other ships. But, here's the problem. Lordy, who thought this was a good idea, Rory? This is a bad idea. This is what it's going to cost in game. This is what the cash price is. This is what it costs for like credit. So after this sale is over, this is what it's going to end up being in the store. For perspective, I'm going to look this up real quickly, because I want to make sure I have the exact type, because I think it's the same price, but it might be a little cheaper. Might be a little more expensive. Yep, standalone is about the same price. For the same price, you can get a Vanguard hoplite. Okay? I don't know what universe that a Vanguard and a Cutlass Black are the same ship, but certainly not in this universe. It's very important to point that out because the Vanguard hoplite is effectively the same ship with its interior replaced with seats. So it doesn't have any beds or anything like that, but it has 6 seats. The Cutlass Steel is a worse Cutlass Black. It's slower than the Cutlass Black. It has more guns than the Cutlass Black and more seats, obviously, but it's slower. And it doesn't seem... They mentioned some armor, I believe, in here as well. Somewhere up here. I don't see any mentions here of Drake as your back. Yeah, there's no mentions of armor. I've heard mentions of armor, but I haven't seen anything. It may be in the Q&A, but when I read the Q&A, it doesn't see anything either. So the answer is there really isn't armor for this ship either. It's way overpriced. I don't know why CIG does drop ships like this. It doesn't make any sense. Now, does this necessarily affect everybody? Not really. I mean, who cares? Like, that's who really cares if CIG sells a ship or not? The problem I have with it is it feels like CIG is misunderstanding its own ships, because there is no universe where a Cutlass Black, which is effectively a worse, or Cutlass Steel, which is effectively a worse black, is 235. The door guns are broken. You get, if you move too fast, you just get whipped out of the door guns and you can fall out of the ship. So the pilot has to move slower. And it already is a slower ship. It's still a Cutlass, so it still has the same kind of tissue paper reality of its engine. It might change when they add armor, but right now that's not the case. So it's slower. Its extra guns aren't really usable except for the butt gun, which is, yeah, I guess. But you've already sacrificed so many things else for something that that literally holds a quarter or no, half of the server in one black or in one steel. The black is a better deal, just hands down. The reality of this ship is that it should have been marketed at about $150. That would have been the sweet spot, because it's still overpriced at $150. It's still a get-in game, but people would pick it up because it is such a discount for what you get from it, even though you're risking it exploding just randomly because it's a Drake. It's a Cutlass. So I don't know why CIG thinks dropships are valuable. They're not. They're very specific niche roles that, like, the black is a better option for a dropship. It has 6 seats in the back. There are a total of 3 on either side of the back of the black, has drop seats, and it still has cargo space. You don't need the guns. You could just have someone laying down with a rail gun with the open side and do more damage than those miniguns would be. So, as S is pointing out, did you catch the news video? Why is crap from a military perspective? Yeah, and that's also the case. In a military perspective, you want to diversify your risk. You want to be able to, if you have 10 vehicles delivering troops, you'd rather have 10 vehicles delivering 100 troops than one vehicle delivering 100 troops, or 3 vehicles delivering 100 troops. Because if one of those vehicles gets taken out, then you're losing a large section of your military, of your force. Whereas if you have 10, one takes it out, you lose 10 people, you can still function. So that's the problem with the steel, is like the steel is you're putting all of your eggs in one basket. That's a lot of people in a ship that's not designed to take hits. Yeah, you can get 2 blacks and a dragonfly for the same price, and you have more firepower and more flexibility. So the problem I have with CIG in this case is you first off debate people with the not free the not free ship that's actually just an advertising for a ship that you haven't sold yet. And then you also hit them with the price of a ship which is the worst cutty it's the worst cutty out of the cutties. The most expensive one is the worst. Don't get me wrong. I love the Cutlass. I love Drake. And this is the most Drake ship that has ever draked. But at the same time, lore isn't an excuse for shitty pricing. Just hands down. Like, it's a bad ship. Fundamentally a bad ship for what it does, and it's not worth the price you're paying for it. You don't have to subscribe to play this game, do you? No. It's buy to play. So those two things are the real bad ones. This is actually worse. So let me get back to the office real quick and I'll show you. And remember, I'm trying to give CIG, being like, hey, CIG, here are some pointers. So rethink your pricing structure of dropships. I mean, it's already too late. You've already sold them. But like any kind of future dropships, you really got to start thinking about what the value they bring. So you should probably be adding value to these ships. Like, for instance, to fix the Cutlass Steel, add an additional shield generator. Or buff the armor. That would make it a little bit better. If it was the toughest Cutlass in the freaking range, makes sense. Do it. That makes sense. That would work. But as it stands, it's just kind of a weird niche. It's the Rock DS of the Cuddy series. Yeah, that's between this and the Rock and the DS. It's kind of weird. It's a weird combination. And this is the last one. This is more of a nitpick, but this is something that I think needs to be pointed out as well. So we're going to watch this. I'll turn the music off because I don't know if it's... Okay. So this is a minute 21. Okay, y'all? This is a minute 21 trailer. So, first thing we see after the first 3 seconds, ship is crashing. Oh, look, it's one of the new wrecks. Derelicts. Already in the game, but these derelicts are not. Okay? So we're starting off with something that isn't even in the patch. Okay? Number 2, trip mines, which are also not in the patch. So of this minute 20-second trailer, about... Yeah, let's see. 26, yeah. Plus exploring the new derelict, which isn't in the game. 33 seconds. A third of your trailer is for something that isn't even in the game that you had to push. Now, this is nitpicking. It's not, I know why they did it, you know, because they needed a trailer out. They had made this trailer before they pushed derelicts and trip mines, and they just produced it anyways because they needed to. They didn't have enough time. I get it. I get that issue. Here's the thing that my critique would be: you don't have to release a trailer. You don't, or you could cut out that beginning. You just don't release a trailer. Release that for 316.1. You know, when you come back, you just release it for 361. It's fine. So, now, I know I do feel like there's a lot of people out there who are beating up CIG unwarranted. People who got angry that the Ares got changed. I get why people got angry about the Ares getting changed, but the reality is that CIG is going to tweak ships. That's they always do. And I understand giving feedback for CIG, but some people are just taking it way too hard. The Odyssey was a big mistake in terms of how they handled it, but I can also understand a little bit about that. There's, you know, you have to get these people, you have to siphon, it's like filter through all of the questions, and it's a little bit more complicated than the Spartan. To be fair, the Spartan's pretty easy to ask questions about. It's pretty straightforward. And it's a huge price advancement. So like I understood why the Q&A was a little bit more delayed. But this is not good. Am I frozen? I shouldn't be frozen. Do I see? No, don't drop frames. I can see. Okay. So what I would say for CIG is, as a fan, I'd prefer you err on caution than hype. Jumptown 2.0 is fun. I've played it. I enjoy it. It's for a very specific type of player. It's an event that I hope to see more people get involved in as it kind of goes out. But at the same time, I get when, and then not everyone's excited about it. But still, there are some easy corrections to make. essentially do not release a trailer with things promoting things in the game that aren't in the game yet. Now, I do think that people go a little too hard on CIG sometimes. I'm like, this isn't realistic because they're playing it at 60 FPS. And it's like, because your rig is can't run Star Citizen well, doesn't mean people don't get 60 FPS in the game. I get 60 FPS in the game. There are other people who can as well. And I know CIG does as well, because that's how they're running these things. I understand that is, to some people, seems dishonest. It's not, really. It's just them showing off what the game is. But there are times when CIG is showing off gameplay like healing. Before healing got added, they've gotten better at it. They really have gotten better at it. Most of the time they've been doing these trailers, it has been focused on content that's in the game. It's all been reasonably well. Like the 315 trailer is fine. 315, I don't know if they did a 315 trailer. I think it was just 315. All of the trailers this year have been mostly fine. This one is a little off, and I understand why that's a little bit nitpicky. Pricing needs to get adjusted, because I know all prices are going to go up, but you're starting to hit a point where you're selling ships which are fundamentally broken in game right now and telling people to trust you to fix them after you had a big backlash of from a ship that you sold and then nerfed. Like, I would say 30% of the comments I've seen on the Steel are CIG's just going to nerf the ship anyways once it comes out. Like, not knowing that the Steel is garbage. It's not a good ship, like, at all. Even for its role, it's a bad ship. Like, I don't know how you nerf garbage. You put it in the incinerator, I guess. And like, I don't think you can change it now because you've already sold it. That would be too much. I think the way you change it is by making it the right price in game. So you reduce the price to the point where it's between a blue and a red for in-game credits. But other than that, the way to make it worth its price, as I said before, adding armor to it to justify how slow it is, and or an additional shield generator. Paul, don't ignore me. You know I'm right on the modules. I didn't see what you said, Grim. I'm just talking with the camera right now, so I haven't said it. They would have likely made more quantity sales and modules than bespoke variants of single ships. The Titan is another good example. I have bought all of them I'd have bought all of them if they were mods, personally. I think they've been stepping away from a lot of the mods because they don't sell as well. So, thank you, Farrah, for that 23 months. Make it hot garbage. How do you nerf garbage? You turn it into the Redeemer. I still hate that shit. It could be a Steel plant for the first version of the ship modding that was removed. No, that's not how that works. For me, it's just the Odyssey became, because they released the 400i right before it, whether true or not, it seems like they're pushing these ships because players' imaginations can run wild. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. I think they do sell a lot on hope, and they also sell on cool factor. Like, they want to sell cool ships. Makes sense. Yeah, that's the thing, is they don't have a full idea of what modules are. That's why they don't want to sell modules yet, because like they had an idea that modules would be easier than selling variants, because they figured that they could just pump out a module and it would take them less time and effort, and it turned out that they needed a whole system to develop for it, so they stopped selling ships with modules. And they made more money with the variants. I knew you were going to say that. Keep the Redeemer jokes coming. I'm always going to say that. Yeah, I would say that I wouldn't say that the Cutlass Steel should be just above the blue. I feel like it would be between the blue and like I think the blue is $160, $170. If the Cutlass Steel was between $150 and $175, it would have been good pricing for it. Still more expensive than it's actually deserves to be, but it's a price that's reasonable for the novelty. Yeah, rule of cool is synonymous with CIG more than realistic sim. Yeah, that's 100% true. Rule of cool is what sells. They do want to do realistic sim, but because there's science fiction, they can kind of go crazy with it. Because, you know, realism is subjective with science fiction. It's one of the things I don't, that's another kind of pet peeve I've had, is I hear a lot of people saying, like, Star Citizen is bad, does bad world building. And I think, I'm hoping that the reason why people have that opinion is more to do with the fact that, like, a lot of the stuff that CIG does with world building isn't in game yet. It's just on the website. And as Noodle says, you're playing the website right now rather than playing the game. I'm trying to fix this real quick. Sorry. Last Captain's Table is really good. You should watch it. As start adding stuff to the game from the website, I think you'll start seeing people really see the universe that they've created. Their writing team's pretty good. You know, as someone who's listened to the dialogue for Squadron, I can tell you, and for Mission Givers, they do a really good job. I'm not going to say it's like Oscar quality, but for video games, they're fairly good. I would say it's on par with a good Netflix show or good streaming show, you know, on par with dialogue you'd hear in like a Marvel or DC movie, you know, popcorn action movie sort of thing. So I know they can do good stories. I know they can do characters and dialogue. So I think what they're waiting on, this is the big thing for people to remember as well, is that a lot of it is just waiting on the development of the game. Because, like, they can't add a lot of story in until they have gameplay to support it. Because the game is so heavily, the story and the game are so heavily interlinked that you can't unweave them from each other. So, like, before you can have NPCs talking to each other and going about their business and talking about the events of the day and dynamic missions that are actually dynamic and not pre-planned, you need the tech to build that stuff. And that's all the stuff that will build up the narrative for the universe, which will help build this realistic universe. Good and Netflix don't belong together. There's plenty of good Netflix shows. BoJack Horseman is really good. I'm an Animu fan, so the wife and I have been watching Regretsko when it comes out. It's really good for what it is. The Witcher's good. Not great, but good. You know. Cat's broken big time at the moment. How's that, Lisa? Yeah, the Cuddy Blue's overpriced for sure. I think the Cuddy Blue will probably shine a little bit more when you actually have bounty retrieval missions. Like, the bounty containers probably will be pretty good for when that starts adding in. When that starts factoring in, and you actually have to, like, take them back and, you know, turn them in for money rather than just kill them. And someone said, like, we're not really getting sim, it's more tedium. And I think it's kind of the point. The sim aspects of Star Citizen are more there designed to slow you down, to make you have slower paced games.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Yeah. The first couple seasons, the Daredevil seasons were fantastic. It's a complicated profession. Yes, bounty hunting is a complicated profession. But yeah, like right now people are making money hand over fist with bounty hunting. When you have to actually retrieve the person alive and track them more properly, it's going to take some more time. You'll still get paid the same amount of money, but now the time to money ratio is going to decrease significantly. Mining is also going to have unloading and loading as a factor to it as well, which will make it even slower than it currently is. Same with loading and unloading for cargo. It'll do the same thing. So you can't just like pop a caterpillar full of aluminum, run over to a thing and sell it instantly. It'll take time to physically unload that caterpillar. You're scared about it. Right now, you don't have to FPS, but. The Cat is a sleeper. The Caterpillar is one of those ships that's going to be good at most things, like the Cutlass Black. Like the Cutlass Black is just kind of a good jack of all trades, master of none. The Caterpillar is the same thing. Once it gets its modules, once its tractor beams start working, once its freaking elevators work, once that it's detachable like command pod, all of those things are good ideas. They get the parts. I'm really looking forward to engineering gameplay, just having stuff to do in that way out in the black. Yeah. Season 3 is pretty good. I would say season 3 is better than season 2.
2 words. Distress bacon.
I think season 3 and season 4? Did they use season 4 or was it season 5? Yeah, season 3. Because they didn't do season 4. CIG should market alien gameplay, ships, character systems, etc. Let us play the aliens. I think that they want to do that, but there's a lot of stuff they got to finish first. Just going to upgrade a Redeemer to get a Caterpillar. I mean, you sometimes you gotta dig through garbage before you can find that gold, right? Devarim ground vehicle when? Devarim really don't have ground vehicles. The one thing that I'm waiting for is the ability to turn the Prowler into a hovercraft. Because that was its original kind of pitch, was that it was also a sneaky tank, like an armored personnel carrier tank, where you could turn it into a hover mode and have it hover around like a Nox or a Dragonfly. That may have been completely scrapped though, so. Yeah, that was its. Diablos wouldn't shut the fuck up about it, so that's how I know about it. So do you think we'll see more CNOU since the new bike is obviously theirs? Yeah. I think we'll see more CNOU. I think we'll probably see a Consolidated Outlands fighter, a Consolidated Outlands freighter, maybe a Consolidated Outlands Explorer. Those would be three things I'd expect. Fighters are easy for CIG to make, and Frontier Fighter is something that I could see Consolidated Outland building. Freighter is a big part of RITIF and the Bremen system, which is where Consolidated Outland is headquartered out of. It's the bread. It has been the breadbasket of the UE for a long time. Not really anymore, but it's kind of slipping in its abilities or in its status. But the idea of doing large freight transport makes a lot of sense. Something between a raft and a hull would make sense. Let's see, and then exploration ship. I'd see an exploration ship, like a civilian exploration ship, like an exploration ship designed to survey land to help build with the Pioneer. Like a true frontier ship, designed to go out into the woods, stay there for long periods of time, survey and explore, and then come back home. Pretty much it. Have a good night there. Later there, Outlaw. Thanks for hanging out. What bugs the absolute most about CIG is how easy they walk into situations for criticism. Staggered dev, but with one QA team. This whole hover bike and steel situation, padding their later patches with cards, knowing the items that won't do it. Lennox, I will say that CIG has been undergoing some transitions recently, and a lot of it is them finally having the ability to hire people who are good at their jobs. Not that CIG is bad at their jobs, but CIG often had people who were wearing many hats. It's very easy to tell that when you see people have, like Jared used to talks about all the time how many titles he's had, and you'll hear CIG members say like, I've had like 17 titles, because they've had to move people to do things that they just needed to get done that they may not be experts at. Now they're finally hiring people like this. They finally have a merchandise guy. They didn't have a merchandise person for the longest time. Like it was like Sandy and Ben were running it, and Ben's wife. I'm blanking on her name. But yeah, like they were the ones running it. And then when Ben had to leave because of medical issues, his wife stopped working there. Alexis, yeah. His wife stopped working there. And then Sandy took over, other positions, doing other things, dealing with the board and such. So they really had to hire somebody who was knew how to do inventory and all these other things. And that's the other thing. They got producers to run teams and producers who were trained to be project managers. At what stage do you envision seeing Pioneer in game? Post 4.0. I would say 2 years after 4.0 drops. Because when 4.0 drops with static server meshing and they have Pyro, that makes sense. Now, they could also not add Pyro with static. They could wait for dynamic. We'll see. But after dynamic server meshing is out and they have multiple systems in game, was when they'll start looking at the Pyro, at that stuff. I've heard good things about the new Dying Star match. Yeah. Sure, but that means they should know even more what limits they had about it. If they hired somebody in January, typically speaking, it takes about 6 to 9 months for someone to get up to speed. So even if you hired somebody who knows what they're doing, it's going to take them a while to navigate human resources, what the who do they report to, what are the meeting schedules like, to get their emails working. Like, there's a time period for spool up. So a lot of these people were hired fairly recently, so they're only just now taking responsibilities and starting to do things. And we can see with CIG's merchandise, it's gotten a fuck ton better in the last year because that person's been there. But it takes time. That's the part that, is just the inconvenient truth. CIG has enough money and has the talent to do a lot of things they want to do, but the things they're doing are going to require time. And they'll fuck up along the way because they're not perfect. They're human. It takes time and money. CIG's got plenty of money. They don't have plenty of money forever, but they got plenty of money. Awesome chance to catch you live for once. CIG neglected AC for the PU. They definitely have. Struggle for bringing players together, large verse. Sometimes people want to log in and just get right to fighting. Great format, by the way. Thank you, Art. Yeah, no, we do it every Thursday, usually in the evenings, so. What I missed, we talked a little bit about CIG's advertising, marketing fuck-ups. Trying to be critical, but also constructive about it. And I think from what I've heard from Xylo, they've kind of took the message. There's a couple things that I don't think they fully have, but I don't think anyone's changing CIG's pricing strategy unless they stop selling well. I think if the Cutlass Steel doesn't sell what they projected it to sell at, then yeah, they'll turn their back on it, or they'll start thinking about things. But because honestly, the reality is that I think CIG would make more money selling things like cosmetics and smaller ships, smaller kind of value, because you could sell them in higher quantities, and they wouldn't take them as much to work. Which is the reason why like fighters make them fucking a lot of money, because they're small. It's really, the price usually isn't horrendous. It's still like $100, but like it's usually not horrendous. Hey, old boy, thanks for that raid. Welcome, buddy. I can meld the paint for a new paint, yeah. Like, for instance, I think CIG is leaving money on the table by not allowing players to do kind of a hex code system for their ship. Because MechWarrior Online, not the best example, but I do like what they do, where they have skins which are more like patterns, and then they sell like art palettes, like color palettes. So you have like some basic colors, and then they have more advanced colors or more different types of colors that they sell in kind of groups that you can then use to put onto any of the patterns, and then kind of have a primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. You could easily do something like that. While having a basic color pattern for most people, they can kind of be happy with it. But if they want this particular shade of pink or orange, they could buy that in a solo, or they can buy it in a pack with a bunch of other ones. Microtransactions aren't the best, but if you're trying to keep money, because you need, the reality is CIG is a company, they're not your friend, but they're also a company. They need to keep the doors open, the lights on. And something like that is giving people enough ability to customize their own themselves, but also allowing for them to sell, smaller amounts. Again, most microtransactions make the companies they work, they have billions of dollars. Yeah, and Warframe's another great example of that. Like a different voice in Elite, yeah. They've not told anything about customization well. Yeah, that's true. Have I seen the Unreal Wild plugin that always allows Unreal to build worlds to scale Star Citizen? Also, the maps are fully destructible. I haven't, but the issue that that Unreal always has isn't necessarily the scope of the worlds. It's the scope of the worlds and the number of players in it is its big problem. Be interesting to see it. I'm a Star Citizen fan, but I'm a space fan more than anything else. So I'd love to see more games the scope and scale of Star Citizen with similar ambitions. Hi, is that Caterpillar prison mission still in Star Citizen phase, please? Yes, it is. I think you need to have a criminal record. I don't know how you get it, but it's still in there. Going out to Maine. Nah, I gotta get it cut. I'm gonna get it cut after Christmas. I was gonna cut it earlier, but then other things happened. You talk a lot about money left on the table. Thus, I would ask, how much money does CIG need before we can call this thing ready for legitimate public scrutiny? I mean, just because CIG is an alpha doesn't mean that people aren't going to be legitimately scrutinous of Star Citizen. They already are. I've never said that you can't say bad things about CIG. I just don't think personal attacks help anybody, and personal vendettas are kind of petty. Because this game is Chris's game, but at the same time, there are 700 people who work on this game. And thinking that Chris Roberts is the king of all kings is kind of ridiculous. But as I even said, I've even criticized CIG even just now with some of their practices and what they want to do. I suspect the game will continue to be funded with the ship concepts even after it's out. Your thoughts? Yeah, they make too much money doing that. I hope they will offer trade-ins for the future because the old ships are usually not as good. We'll see how it works. Thanks, Madness. We'll see what they do though. So Theaters War going out the door will open the door. Well, you don't even know what the fuck Theaters War is. Like, let's be honest. I've heard rumors that it's going to be a free-to-play game, which would be great. Don't fucking know. I don't know what it is. What if CIG ever so willingly puts out some kind of content that essentially spits in the face of their backers? Just like how they did with releasing the Cutlass Steel at a ridiculous price. At least Luminali paper that screams, prepare your wallets, peeps. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the flip. I think the thing that CIG fucked up on with the Luminalia thing was just a bad timing. They thought that they was going to be ready before, and people, the left hand wasn't talking to the right. We all know the Theaters of War turning into a third game they could release in the future. Yeah, we don't know. We just don't know. If they had to put a knife as the last present, then it probably would have been fine. Yeah, it would have been fine. I think, yeah, having the knife as the last present would have been fine. Yeah, I think a skin for the new ship would have been better. There's a couple of things they could have done. I think how they could fix that is simply give the hoverbike to anyone who downloaded it as a mea culpa. Because I think they probably leave themselves open for some legal action. As, you know, pointless as that is, because it requires people to put their own money down for an internet feud, which isn't always possible. But, you know, some people are determined. Giles did mention, yeah, we said that all earlier as well, is that next year they want to make sure everything's in game. Right. First, we're reading the Jump Point article on the Odyssey and then comparing it to the actual sale information. And it's clear the indication that how not to do marketing in Star Citizen. Features mentioned in the article are types of things we should have been in sale, not Xi'an gravity generator and Xi'an lifts. So I assume we won't see a 316-1. No, we will. As last we heard, CIG is going to release a 316-1 after they get back from break. They'll probably sell the hoverbike in 316-1. What are the chances they give the bike for free now? Well, we'll see. I think that's a good way of doing it, is just giving it away to the people who downloaded it. Or at least giving a skin as a, we fucked up, we're sorry, we didn't mean to, because I don't think it was malicious. Yeah, CIG maliciously fucked themselves so hard that they left themselves open for legal action. That's exactly what they did. It makes a lot of sense. I think even a proper wallpaper would have been perfectly fine, but the last image wasn't really a wallpaper. They could have done something, but exactly. Later, Fizzle. Thanks for hanging out, man. This year's a lot better than last year. We only got a party peek out. Yeah, no, this year was better than last year. I think this year was hands down better than last year. I just think that we also have a lot of newer folks in the Star Citizen community who've come in the last year or two. And so a lot of people don't have the perspective. Like, a lot of people joined in 315 and 314. It sounds weird, but they did. As someone who's been following the game for like 9 years, yeah. Not malicious, but a bit idiotic. Yeah, definitely stupid. All the skins from Luminalia was ships I don't know. Then you got to earn it in game. Because if you have those skins and you get them in game, then you can use them. I think I got over 10 free items in my hangar. Yeah. And hi, Paul. I can't stay long. Last day of Christmas for shopping stuff. Yeah, Al, thank you for coming in. For those of you who don't know, Al and Jail and Space Tomato and I did a Lore Citizen podcast that was released yesterday. So on the fall of the Mezzers, like, did the Mezzers fall on their own, or was it a fluke, some outside interference sort of thing? There's a lot. Yeah, there is a legitimately lot of new players in Star Citizen. Way too much of an overreaction to a free wallpaper, in my opinion. Yeah, to a degree. I think it is a bit of an overreaction in the sense that context clues could easily say that it was, knowing that it was a sneak peek. The other one was a sneak peek and stuff like that. But I can see where it could be misunderstood pretty easily. And CIG could have thought about that. Thank you, AJ. Listen to that packing out drugs at Jumptown. Really good episode. It was full of Luminalia cheer. Yeah, thank you, AJ. It was the most Luminalia appropriate. Happy Christmas, everybody! Genocide and child murder. I don't know who the marketing. I know there's a new head of marketing. I don't know his name. He's apparently someone who's been in the industry for a while. There's a new kind of person who's in charge. That's what I heard. Way to pander to all the haters and critics that most backers cop out on the internet. I have no idea what you're talking about, Droplet. Is that he's ex-Funcom? Okay. So yeah. And I know that marketing and community work together a lot on that kind of stuff, so. In history, who do the Measures remind you of? Medici family? I mean, they're obviously modeled after the Caesars. Caesars doesn't own any gifts, but it was an ad as a gift is a bit of a letdown. Yeah. The way to market the hover bike. Yeah, it was stupid. I think the same people screeching the loudest, if they're the same people who cried over the game, gift 1K to... Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say... The reality is this the 80-20 rule. I've heard about that. You know, it's something I've been hearing about more recently. 80% of the people who are going to be, you know, active and vocal in your community are represent only about 20% of the actual community. Marketing failure? Isn't there time enough for me? Let me know what you think of sometime to the VOD. Always value view. I'll take a look at it. Yeah. I gotta wrap it up here in about 20 or 30 minutes because of the wife getting home and stuff like that. That's why I wanted to do it a little earlier, because I knew that EU folks wanted a captain's or caps people, an office hours that was a little bit more early rather than like 4 o'clock in the morning. People in game were trying to spawn the bike and asking where it was in global. Damn. Merry Christmas, Paul. Love your content, and I'm sure 2022 will be even better. Thank you so much to their Chapter Walker for the 4 months. We appreciate it. I'm glad y'all do. When you're looked at as being predatory by the gaming world as a whole, maybe don't do something so glaringly obvious it makes it predatory. It's my critique. I agree, but the problem isn't necessarily that the whole gaming world thinks Star Citizen is predatory, because that assumes that the whole gaming world has heard of Star Citizen, which I highly doubt. It is a bit of a meme that Star Citizen is a scam, but we're also, I think it's just because it's easier for people to pick on the little guy, because, you know, from a perspective of somebody who isn't a backer, who hasn't been following the project, it's pretty easy to sit there and go, wow, this sounds stupid. You're paying thousands and thousands of dollars for spaceships, for internet spaceships that are just digital. What are you, stupid? You know, oh, so that game must be entirely pay to win, because if I can buy a $10,000 spaceship, I must have an advantage. The only reason why people buy it. They didn't really understand the context or anything else like that. And there's a lot of people out there who are willing to, you know, have a personal vendetta or mental health issues or, you know, very legitimately, like, so for some reason wanted to kind of stick to it and want to spread misinformation. And then the media is easy. Like, the gaming media, they got to pay their fucking bills, and scandal sells. And since they don't have to worry about CIG kind of taking away advertising money from their from their parent companies, they can say what the fuck they want. It was a great lore podcast yesterday. Reading about the Measures is always fun. Yeah, fun. I never hate the writers who write it. They gotta make money. You know, they got mortgages to pay. They got things they gotta deal with, and those people are underpaid and overworked. They write for fun and they like video games, and so they do those two together. And holy shit, do they get underpaid like terribly. So I'm not going to hate the fact that they pick a topic that they think they can easily sell. And sometimes they probably legitimately think that Star Citizen's a scam. But at the same time, if you're going to think it's a scam, talk to other sides about it. Be more journalistic about it. Don't just take something that's sensational and put it out there. They're bloggers, not journalists. Bloggers playing as journalists, yes. There's some legit close to being journalistic out there, few and far between. Yeah, there are. There's some really good ones. ITT did a very look. LTT, Linus Tech Tips. Yeah, Linus Tech Tips did a pretty good one. There's a couple other ones out there that did pretty good. Yeah, Charlie Hall did a pretty good job when he used to. Charlie Hall legitimately like interviewed me, asked me questions back in the Arena Commander days, and wrote articles, citing me. Like when I was nobody, still am nobody, but when I was nobody. So like, but Charlie Hall doesn't work in the video games anymore. He does tabletop. That's his big thing right now. Yeah, I've been following since 2012, and it's come a long way from just a conversation to where we are now. Yeah. Question: what do you know about the plans for the Copilot functionality? Like, what are Copilots going to be able to do, and when do you think they'll stuff
Two
like
words.
that?
Distress bacon.
This is all Star Citizen music, by the way. This is just Star Citizen medley. There's someone who asked a lore question earlier. Lore question. In Freelancer, there were obvious patron nations such as the USA, Germany, Japan, etc. Do all the Star Citizen ship manufacturers represent specific nationalities? I know MISC is Japanese. Not directly, but some of them. MISC is Japanese. Origin is German. It's a riff on BMW. RSI is a riff. It's an American company in lore, but it's probably more of a riff on like Toyota or Honda. Kind of multinational corporation. Same with Aegis and Anvil. Though Anvil has a lot of Russian references in it, which is weird because I'd say Anvil and Aegis are both like Lockheed and Boeing is really like those two things. Wait, is the Cutlass Steel the only new ship for 316? Yeah. Distressed Bacon. Yes. CNOU is Tesla. Yeah. Is Drake Redneck America? So there's a couple of interesting references in lore. The lore references that I've gathered from Drake and from Magnus seems to indicate that Drake is much more of a Russian influence. It's like a mix between Russian and like Liverpool. Like Northern England, Manchester, Liverpool, that kind of region, and Russia. Which one is Kiwi? I don't know. One of the armor manufacturers, maybe? Drake ships do look like Russian military hardware. They even have seats. They have the seats, yeah. Asperia. Yeah, that makes sense. Kruger and Galactic is also German, yes. But Kruger is also from Magnus, which is the weird part. Like Magnus is like, it's space Detroit, but it has a lot of Russian in it. Like for instance, Anvil is also weird because Anvil is headquartered in New Kiev in Terra. So. I mean, Drake being Russian was solidified in the steel. How about Crusader? I don't know. I really can't. I mean, the original Crusader lore they're heavily Christian. Like, that's where the name came from. It was a compromise, but Drake is the Lada of Star Citizen. Yes. Only Eastern Europeans would get that joke. and Eastern Europeans and Scandinavians. Crusaders from Angeles? Yeah. The Mormons of Star Citizen? Kind of. East Germany and Toyota. Wouldn't RSI also be a rift on Ford with a Model T pairing? Yes. Yes. Crusader has a French feel? Possibly. Yeah, like Airbus. I am still very firm, even though it wouldn't make sense in lore, to say Tumbril was a French company. I still want to say it had French origins, though. Though it comes from Sai, which is the same place where Misk is from. So. I feel like Argo sort of represents Alabama pretty well. It's very American. It's very cat. Like Argo and Grey Cat are the kind of like the cat, even down to like their coloring is very like industrial. Industrial American. John Deere and Caterpillar. Yeah. Are creatures expected soon? I can check the roadmap. I think it was on the progress tracker at one point. AI ground vehicles, landing improvements. There's an unannounced for Star Citizen for AI tech and future team. Space Whale V1. Yeah, there's Space Whale V1, which is set for the end of this year. Animation was set for September. Last updated April 8th, 2021, though, so I don't know. They did tweak the Boreal Stalker lore entry recently, but yeah, quite beyond that. That's something I'd expect them to release in, like, maybe at the end of next year, but probably not until after server meshing. Seraphim Systems is a small shuttle manufacturer. They resisted August Dunlop's takeover because of the name. Dunlop, yeah. So and he wanted to change the name, and they said no. So he eventually compromised on Crusader. But the original Seraphim Systems was run by a very religious woman. Doesn't that rely on NPC nav mesh tech in the first? Yeah, which is also on the content, the feature team, I think. Navigators, links, elevators, and transit, ladders and ledge grab, planetary navigation. That was finishing up its sprint in September, but that was also updated in May 19th, so we have no idea. Cuddy is an almost perfect safari creature hunting ship. Yeah, I can see that. What's your safe word? What's your safe word? Oh, Vertigo. Absolutely about the cat, John Deere. I work in agro equipment industry, and while I don't own any Argo, I 100% looks like most of the realistic depiction of the industry in space. Yeah, it does. They do a really good job, I think, with Argo and Gray Cat as both very much a. If you look at them, they incorporate a lot of modern looking hardware. Like if you look at them, you can see parts of them that are obviously inspired by like the ISS or the space shuttle or Dragon, the Dragon capsule or Soyuz, and you can see those parts, but then like mixed in with more science fiction, kind of blocky, but science fiction. And then a little bit of design styles from like modern tractors and modern like heavy lift equipment and stuff like that. So you have a little bit of a blend of like what they have today, what actually exists today, mixed with some more hard science fiction parts and then some future science fiction dibbly-doobs. The safe word is free Grav-Lev bike. Oof. Oh, I was in Moist Noodle's stream, and Moist Noodle pulled up. This is a fun one. If you want a decent documentary that's a comedy, it's a mockumentary, but it's a comedy, look up Pentagon Wars. He watched Pentagon Wars, which the popular one is the making of the Bradley fighting vehicle, infantry fighting vehicle. And the story of the Bradley is essentially, he talked about how it's essentially the story of the Cutlass. And one of the things that they joked about in that video that I'd seen it before, but when Noodle showed it off was, what do you want me to put a sign on it that says, "I am not a tank, please don't shoot at me"? And chat did a chant where it was like, "I'm not a tank, please don't shoot at me." So I was like, that needs to be a skin for the Cutlass Steel. I am not a armored ship. I do not have armor. Please do not shoot at me. I am a troop transport. Please do not shoot at me. So convince me that Star Citizen isn't just Farm Sim 2950. I can't. Because that's what it is. It's Farm Sim 2950. With more guns. You think we'll ever get a longer engagement ranges and faster speeds back again? This World War II knife fighting distance is great for light fighters. I don't know. I think a lot of the distances, the reason why they stopped doing the distances had a lot to do with desync. And a lot of that also had to do with draw distances. With them working on the the Gen 12 renderer and adding in Vulkan, I think that will determine a lot about what those things are. And it's going to be great. Star Citizen is either going to be good or a disaster. There is no in between with Star Citizen. There's no, it's going to be bad. It's either going to be a dumpster fire or, yeah. Please don't shoot at me for the Cuddy Red. Yeah. Aggressively farming Sim 2950 is already a good disaster. Haven't had Ovaltine in years. Drink more Ovaltine. Wouldn't mind farming either, but my crops would probably be, die to neglect. Yeah. I'm just doing delivery and investigations, not even bothering in mining. You can make a lot of money doing investigation and delivery missions, and they're good kind of exploring around. You can also make a lot of money mining. I see a lot of people making millions of UEC going to the Air and Halo. I'll tell you this. Anybody who is telling you that that Star Citizen is dying, he's not paying attention. CIG is making more money every year. I mean, true. But they've also not really been selling a lot of concept ships. I think there were 3, maybe 4 this year. And one of the concept ships they sold was the Scorpius, which is going to flyable in 317. So it's like flyable in a year. More and more money from the same people, though. We don't really know that, Macton. That's the thing. Like, there is a large influx of new people coming in as well. Like, we don't have direct numbers, but a great way of looking at it is looking at, like, the charts for Twitch and YouTube. You can find some of these statistics online that show you, like, how many people are watching Star Citizen. Has it gone up? Has it gone down? On average, and because generally speaking, if the same people have been watching Star Citizen for 9 years, you wouldn't see any growth. If you'd see spikes when new content comes out and it goes down and that kind of stuff, obviously, but you'd also see an average lower if there was less people watching it, which would indicate that if more money was going up, but less people are being interactive, then you might see that as being like more people are spending more money and there's less people in the community. But that really doesn't pan out. Yes, CIG is dirt poor compared to AAA developer publishers. But yeah. Star Citizen, do you boys like Mexico? Oh, I get that reference. Raylan, Scorpius, Odyssey, and I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. There may be some more. The Scorpius is coming out soon, and the Raylan and the Odyssey are the ones that are going to be coming out a little bit later. And they released new concept ships, ships from concept to live this year as well. Not a ton, but not as many as 2020. But the Hercules was released this year. And the Nova tank, the Nova tank. So yeah, the Nova and the Hercules were both released from concept. And Tarkov is you pay to win stuff with EOD, but nobody cares. Yeah, Tarkov is that issue where it fluctuates a lot. Yeah. Astrobob, it would be hilarious if somebody named their ship "Please Don't Shoot Me." Shoot at me. Like a lot of new and also younger players on Twitch and YouTube. Yeah, we're getting a lot more younger folk. More mid to early 20s people streaming the game and playing the game. I've seen more than a few high schoolers mention that, like, they're 18 or whatever. Or just going to college sort of thing. Best ship of the game, Mr. No Pew Pew. Also, anyone that owns any of those ships expects some balance passes. Every ship's go through it. Yeah. You think we'll have an org-owned ships, bases, and gear in the future with org tools? Yeah, that's just more of an issue of persistence than anything. And then they have to build the tools to work with how to give people permission and stuff like that. Has CIG tried to justify the price of the steel at all? No. Not at all. Other than that it's got more guns, which is why it's more expensive. I was 15 when I saw the original Kickstarter trailer, and now you're 45. God, that reminds me of the dude who came in here one time saying that he was 17 when he saw Star Citizen being made, and now he's 29. He's turning 30. And I was like, do you age differently? Star Citizen has only been in development for 9 years. And even if you think that Star Citizen's been in development for 12 years, or 10 years, I guess 12 years now, because or 11 years, because a lot of people say it started in 2010. Then how the fuck did you know about the game before it was announced? How did you back the game before it was announced? Because I think I mentioned, it's like, you mean you're 26? And he's like, no, I'm like 29. And I'm like, what? Well, I think the reality is the dude was just making shit up and was looking at what other people have said in the past about when Star Citizen actually started and just kind of guesstimated it. Like when he heard about it. And now I'm 65 and it's still not done yet. Exactly. The average Star Citizen backer, like my demographics prove that most of y'all are between the ages of 25 and 40. Hey, 10 years in bed, baby. Yeah. But that is also getting younger, I think. The demographic is getting younger. As the game is becoming more fleshed out, that demographic is becoming younger. Because there are more younger people than there are older people. Like, I'm a millennial. I think I'm 36. I think I'm going to be 36 this year. I think, yes. I don't know my own age. I stopped counting. I'm in my 30s. But I'm one of the older millennials. Not super old, but like about 5 years younger than the oldest millennial, who are now just turning 40. I backed this game when I was in my mid-20s. But like the millennial generation is much bigger than the extra generation. And I don't think that the Zoomers, the generation after the millennials, are actually more than the millennials. I think we're still bigger, but they're still like about the same as the Xers. So the reality is that as time marches on, we're going to see the younger generations in Star Citizen outnumber the older generations by a significant margin before this game is released. You're 45 in a month, okay. Star Citizen players are the ones that stop counting their birthdays. I stopped counting after like 30, because 30 was supposed to be a big milestone. I just stopped caring. Time to grab a game, yeah. You know you're doing it right. You forget how old you are. Yeah, you are, mate. I'm old enough to drink, old enough to vote, old enough to drink, old enough to rent a car. Oh, you're born in 85 and you're 36, so I'm actually younger than that, because I was born in 87, so I'm 34. I'm an elder millennial, Paul, witness my power, or whatever. Elder millennials don't have any power. They just have houses, maybe. You're only as old as you feel. So I'm 90. Seriously, the counting does stop at some point. That's not a lie or a stretch. There's really no, like, I guess when I retire, it would be the next mark. 65, baby. I don't know when that is. Star Citizen will be in beta by then. Albert is like Gandalf. See, that's the secret. Albert is actually younger than I am. He's just a teacher, so, you know, we age differently. We're like Merlin. We age backwards. Crippling old elder millennials have the ultimate power, crippling student loan debt. We don't turn off after school. It's a myth. We turn into live streamers. All right, I'm gonna turn off the music and we're gonna do the. So for those of you who don't know, who've never kind of seen this before, my cat is very hungry. He's very hungry. You very hungry? You hungry? I'll pick you up. I'll pick you up. No, you're gonna have cat comments on the YouTubes. You're a per box. Say hi to the people. He doesn't have a purr box. He has a 2-stroke motor. And he's very wiggly. He's very wiggly right now. He just wants food. Oh. No, Gandalf was based on Merlin. All the way around. Arthurian Tales, baby. That's Jack, my tuxedo cat. You need a lit roller from a mic? I do. You can kind of see how all of the hair. It's worse here. Hairy baby. Yeah. All right. Let me fix this up real quick. All right. So this is, for those of you who don't know what I do this thing called the capsule, where I take a section of the office hours and I clip it out and I kind of make it my own little video. And we talk about various topics. I've done a couple of lore capsules, but I never released them because I didn't think they were very good. So this time I sat down and actually wrote out some notes. And so we could talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to pull up some videos real quickly. Or some images. Kind of for reference here. So you can find this real quick. LH. There we go. All right. Got that all ready to go. Soft edge. Yeah, I just have to. Where do I find this? Search now. All right. Let's restart this real quickly. You stream multi-platform, right? Which do you prefer to watch on Twitch or YouTube? What's the best for you? I tend to watch videos on YouTube more, and I tend to watch live streams on Twitch more, just in general. All right. Here we go. I'm going to get started with this. I'm actually going to pull up my notes real quickly, so I actually have those available. All right. I'll probably screw up on it a little bit. Hello and welcome to another capsule. My office hours capsules. These are little tiny little bites. And space capsule, get the joke as well. Of my office hours, which is a live stream we do every Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/theastropub and youtube.com/theastropub. Come join us for the discussion as well. So these segments are usually things that I pull aside to do a little highlight about something, give you a little video to maybe entice you to come join us for our live streams or watch the live streams after the fact as well. Always available for you, available on YouTube as well. But today I'm going to tell you about a system that you've probably never heard of that is one of the most important systems in the UEE. That is the system of Corel. Let's start by looking at where Corel is in the star map to give it a little bit more context of its importance. So before I do that, let me make sure that I'm not currently going to swoosh you all to death. There we go. Oop. We're just going to leave that in. Live broadcast, y'all. Here we go with the star map. So we see us over here in Stanton, which is over here. And Corel is down here, which is a couple of jumps away. It's from Magnus, Ellis, Nexus, Hades, Nemo, and then Corel. Now, Corel was discovered in 2449 and is on the border of the UEE and the Banu Protectorate. It has 3 large jump points to Nemo, Genesis, and Geddon. And Corellian society is very much a mix of human frontier and Banu bureaucracy. Which creates a kind of a laid-back but efficient people. It's one of the busiest trade areas of the UEE, with long lines of trade of ships coming in and out of the system, often blocked by UEE customs officials or Banu trade Suli, guild Sulis. These are groups that are kind of like trying to figure out who's coming in and who's going, sort of thing. Now, the system itself, as we go into it, has several different planets. Corel 1 and 2 are really close to the center of the star and are fairly valuable. Corel 1 is completely blasted, just an iron core, and Corel 2 actually has a lot of resources that could be available, but it's very dangerous because of how close it orbits its star. Then we have, I'm going to skip the other 2 habitable zones. Out of sight of the habitable zones, we've got Corel 5, which is just a gas giant, and Corel 6, which is just a tiny little planetoid that actually orbits, if I can get to the right angle, I don't think I can, but it actually is kind of off axis, so it's really far out in the system with that whole thing. Now, we're going to talk about Low and Castor. Now, Low is is known as Corel 3. It is, well, let's try Corel 4 first, Castor. Corel 4 is Castor. This is a very, very cold planet, which is on the edge. It's actually technically outside of the green zone. But it was for decades a project for the Mezzers to try to show off human innovation and technology by essentially terraforming a planet that should never be terraformed. So it was kind of a challenge to humanity. But decades and decades of research and experimentation left the world no warmer, but with less atmosphere. It was a terrible failure on the part of the Mezzers as a way of trying to flex towards the Banu of all people about how good their technology was. An absolute horrible mistake. But there's still people who live there, but its atmosphere is too thin to support life. Then we have Lo, which is Corel 3. Now, Lo is the third planet in the Corel system. It is mostly temperate, though along its equator, it has a region that is known as the Kof. I was saying that right? The Kof region. Now, Kof is a region that is mostly built around plains, dusty plains. And it's also the hottest region on the planet. And in the Kof region, we have the planet's main capital, New Junction. Now, New Junction, because it's on this region, it's the hottest of all of the places of the planet. And it also receives like regular dust storms. So it has this Old West vibe to it, which is kind of, made even more prevalent with the kind of laid back but efficient society kind of attitude of New Junction. But New Junction is also a melting pot. There's lots of Banu who live in New Junction as well as humans. Banu Suli are as active as human companies. And as a whole, it is a kind of a crossroads of culture. So keep that in mind when we talk about why this planet and the system, but this planet in general, is very important. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Project Brawler. Now, Project Brawler was activated in the late 2900s or in the early 2900s, and it was a project developed by the Navy specifically for a, quote, close-range dogfighting, logistics support, and ground attack vehicle. This project had 3 different entries: Aegis Dynamics, Drake Interplanetary, and Anvil Aerospace. Drake just introduced a Cutlass, and so they were disqualified. But Aegis introduced what was known as the Bearcat, and and Anvil introduced what's known as the Hawk, the U-9A Hawk. The Bearcat was just a better ship overall than the Hawk. It was a better dogfighter. It was a better fighter. It was designed in the very Aegis style, which I hope we see the Bearcat at some point. But the problem with the Bearcat was that it was terrible at the mission that it was supposed to be designed to do: ground attack, close logistical support, and close dogfighting. It just wasn't very good at those. It did better at dogfighting than the Hawk, but it was terrible at ground attack. The Hawk wasn't a very great dogfighter, but it did all the things it was supposed to do very well and used kind of recycled parts from the Hornet program as a means to lower the cost of building the ship. So it ended up winning. Now, after the initial trials were finished, the first Hawks were sent to Lo, to the planet of Lo, specifically because Lo and Corel, or Castor, Lore and Castor, had some very extreme environments, and they had active pirate groups and smuggling groups that worked throughout the system. Because of their interactions with, being a border world, lots of Banu outlaws were there and human outlaws were there. And so the Hawk was brought in to use its ability as a logistical support ship, as a close dogfighter, and a ground attack ship to essentially eliminate the threat. Didn't really eliminate the threat. It just forced the criminals to no longer be active on ground bases in atmospheres. They retreated to space-based options, which the Hawk wasn't as good at. So it was so good that it basically efficiencyed itself out of its job, and there wasn't really much for it to do after that, because this is essentially what it was built to do. So Low and Castor are the reasons why we have the Hawk in the first place, and it's where the Hawk essentially is its spiritual home. So if you like the Hawk, there you go. Now, going back in time a little bit, kind of interesting thing. Three very important people all came from New Junction from around the same time period as well. We'll start with the 27th century. Early 27th century, 2600s, two runaways are living in the streets of New Junction. One's name is... what's her full name? Polly Dalal, and the other one, his name is Clem. Now, they had been living on the streets of New Junction for a while, and they'd been essentially street rats since they were kids. And Clem, who was a Tavaran refugee from the Second Tavaran War, he was a kid when the Second Tavaran War happened, was often used as a distraction for Polly to, do some criminal hijinks to get them fed. So he was always in danger, especially in the Meser era. So he actually was worried for himself, but also worried for Polly that Polly would get hurt in their hijinks. So he started finding ways of defending himself, including figuring out how to build weapons, and actually built what was referred to as a hand cannon by most of the in-lore sources. Now, this was interesting because at the time, post-Second Tavaran War, people were experimenting with everything, with any kind of weapon you could imagine. Chemical, plasma, energy, just gas weapons, anything that was like new and innovative. And they thought there was an honest belief that ballistic weapons were dead, that you would never see a ballistic weapon in the history of humanity again, that the only place you'd find a bullet is in a museum. But Polly had noticed that a lot of bounty hunters and security personnel who worked in the streets of New Junction would go to old secondhand shops specifically for ballistic weapons because they still valued them. So she had a thought of not just using the hand cannon to defend themselves, but to sell the hand cannon. So she went to a bar, told people about her weapon, set up a ballistic gel dummy, and fired several shots with a hand cannon into the ballistic gel dummy. This caused people to freak out. They called the police. The police showed up, caught Polly shooting into a ballistic gel dummy, arrested her for disturbing the peace. But she was able to get out, basically paid her fine and left. And when she left, she went back to the bar and got a list of people who wanted to buy their first weapon. So she went back with Clem. At Clem, they used their money that they had from the down payments to buy a new workshop. Clem built the first round of weapons and then continued this process until they became really well known for ballistic personal weaponry. As they grew, people began to ask who was making the weapons. Polly would say her brother, Clem, her twin brother, Clem, was making the weapons. No one knew that Clem was a Tavaran because this was the height of the Meser era. This is the 26th into the 27th into the 28th century, some of the worst time periods in human history, especially the kind of slide, decline, and downfall of the Mesers. So Polly, out of her own safety for her friend, who practically was her brother, said essentially, no, or I'm going to keep this as a secret. So as part of the whole scheme, making these weapons, she actually named the company in reference to her and Clem being twins, calling it Gemini. So if you have a Gemini weapon in game, it's Tavaran made. All of the Tavaran all of the weapons that are that made by Gemini, they're in game right now, are by canon designs by Clem, including the hand cannon, which is, let me pull it up here so I can show y'all. This, I'm forgetting the name of it, the LH-86. This is the hand cannon that Clem first developed. Now, it's been modified a little bit. These sections right here are actually added after the fact. The little like power wheel that was added recently as a means to speed up the firing rate of the weapon, and borrows from some technology from energy weapons manufacturers. So Canon. So, Gemini Weapons was headquartered in Lowe in New Junction for years. After Clem and Polly retired, giving the company over to new management, eventually Clem was ousted or was outed as a Tavaran well after his death. But after the fall of the Mezzers, this actually caused a resurgence in sales because at that point everyone thought it was an old, stuffy, like relic of the past. But more people were interested now that this was legitimately Tavaran weapons manufacturer. And from there, we see what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. From there, Gemini actually has moved headquarters to drop the cost of manufacturing the weapons. Their new headquarters is ArcCorp, Area 18. Gemini is headquartered in Stanton, in ArcCorp, Area 18. That's their headquarters right now. So another little piece of in-game thing you probably didn't even know about. From there we see brain fart, yes. Let's go down to the next section I was going to talk about. That same year, the same time period where Clem and Polly were surviving on the streets, another resident of New Junction was also starting her journey into fame. Her name was Audrey Timmerman. She was raised in the projects, probably in the North Block, which is the kind of the poor area of New Junction. And she loved ships. She fell in love with ships, especially alien designs like the Banu and such. But her father and mother were too poor to afford a ship. So she never really learned to fly. But she always wanted to be a pilot. So she joined, right when she got of the right age, she instantly joined the Navy to be a pilot. But because she didn't have the same kind of flight experience as many of her peers had, because they had grown up with Auroras and other kind of common ships, she wasn't able to make it into the as a pilot. But because she knew ships very well, she translated that knowledge into becoming a mechanic and eventually became the chief mechanic aboard the UES Solus, which was patrolling the...
I'm fly. I'm pilot.
I'm going to turn that off. I forgot about that. Leaving it in, turning it off. So we have a pilot who's working in the brand new want to be a pilot, couldn't make it, working as a mechanic on the UES Solus. And her ship, the Solus, was specifically patrolling the frontier, the border between Xi'an and human space, the Perry Line. Now, she had a very distinguished service, and the thing that kind of changed her life was one day, a fighter squadron was returning back to base, and they brought with them wreckage of a Xi'an ship. This is the height of the Tavaran, or the Xi'an human Cold War. Xi'an tech was very rarely seen outside of top secret classified documents. But because she was from Corel and had experience with alien technology, her captain asked her to take a look at it for initial surveys and studies before sending it on to intelligence and other kind of, reverse engineering and such. Places like RSI, who have their own alien division to break down and kind of reverse engineer stuff. So she was handling Xi'an tech before anyone else had even seen Xi'an tech in many cases. And she fell in love. She was absolutely fascinated by Xi'an technology and wanted to know more. So when she left the service, she actually created her own repair shop, and returned back to New Junction in 2667. Now, here's the fun part. In January 3rd, 2667 was the day that Paula first showed off the LH-86. They're both poor kids from the same city and started their companies in the same year. There is a big chance they knew each other. So, yeah. It's a pretty interesting thing. It's still fanon. It's not really canon, but it's an interesting point. So in 2667, Timmerman sets up what's known as what she calls the intergalactic intergalactic aerospace repairs and gained a reputation for being able to fix anything. She used that information, used the money that she gained, from her work to live, but also for her own secret project. You see, she got a ship that an old Aurora that she fixed up and repaired and modified its maneuvering thrusters to be similar to the maneuvering thrusters that she had seen on the Xi'an ship many years before. She called the ship the Pobby, which is named after her cat. And in 2670, she took her Pobby, which was all finished, with a bunch of other friends who were also with their own kind of experimental custom ships. They all took their ships, loaded it into a transport, and sent it to Castra, the frozen barren world out in the middle of nowhere. And there, because they wanted to, testing experimental stuff, you don't want to have it just explode in over New Junction. That would be bad. So they went to the planet because it was desolate, and if they had accidents, they wouldn't hurt anybody. And they had fun. Pobby completely screwed up, did not work at all, nearly exploded. But they all had fun, and they decided to make it a regular thing. So year after year, they would bring their custom ships to the planet and fly them. And slowly, crowds started to gather at this location where people would watch these experimental ships take off and fly and come back down. And eventually, a man by the name of Stephen Dillard, who was one of their crew, like of custom ship kind of customizers, who owned Stephen's Ship Emporium in New Junction, asked if he could officially sponsor their event. Because he thought it was a great way of selling his own ships. He could bring some of his ships along with him, his like stock ships. And so all these people would become, these looky-loos would come to go see this event. And maybe he could sell some ships while they're there. And Timmerman thought this was a great idea. So they had to think they were going to incorporate. And so she incorporated it as the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo, the IAE. For years, the IAE was on Castra, this frozen world, which is kind of a local event. But as time went on, she caught the attention of Robert Space Industries and Aegis Dynamics, who then sponsored the event, and it started to grow and grow and grow, and eventually would wander around until it found its own home. And the event that we see today in Stanton System is actually a satellite event that goes on every year. Eventually, when more systems are added to the game, the IAE is going to be at a static location every year in one place, which is where it's supposed to be. So, yeah, IAE. That's the whole story behind the IAE. So, again, from New Junction in Corel. This is, on the planet of Lo. These are some very interesting things. The founders of Gemini and the creators of the IAE possibly grew up with one another and knew each other. It's kind of nuts. So the last person we're going to talk about is Nampo Vasco, another North Block resident, but he was born in 2883, so much later than the rest of them. But his mother was a smuggler, but she also had a very bad gambling addiction. So he was kind of a ruffian, didn't really fit in, didn't really go to school. He got most of his education helping his mom do smuggling runs. And then after a particularly bad bet with a Banu Suli, those who know Banu culture will know what's about to happen, she loaned her son at the age of 12 to this Banu crime syndicate. So he ended up getting, from the age of 12 on, began to become a ship stripper. So his job would to be take stolen ships and strip it for parts. And as he was learning to do this, he fell in love with ships. And particularly when he was able to scrap enough money together, he purchased his very first ship in 2894, which was a Cutlass Black. And the Cutlass Black was the thing that made him love to, fell in love with flying spaceships. So after, buying Cutlass Black, and he began to get a reputation in amongst criminal circles as being very good at doing custom work for ships. He would make secret smuggling compartments, completely change the interiors of various ships, take stolen ships and completely change them, like erase the register tags and completely rebuild it. He was very good at his job and constantly tried to improve designs that he'd already seen from ships to make them more efficient, quieter, everything that a smuggler or an outlaw would need to survive in the universe. So Banu and human outlaws began to come to him all the time. Now, he realized pretty quickly that working in a Banu chop shop didn't make a lot of money, but smuggling made a lot of money. So him and his friends stole a Constellation Andromeda, stripped it down, refitted it, and turned it into a smuggler, and started using his connections within the kind of outlaw world to smuggle money, smuggle stuff for money, and did pretty well until he was caught. In 2904, a faulty kind of design on his part got him and his crew caught by the advocacy for smuggling. Remember, this is around the same time period where they started to develop the Hawk to deal with people like Vasco. Like that's his thing. So he got caught and got sent to jail, and there he barely survived prison. A lot of his friends who were caught ended up falling with prison gangs. He managed to avoid it by being very charismatic and good. like he was very, very charming, charismatic. And there he earned the nickname for his jet black hair, which was Crow. So in prison, they called him Cousin Crow, which was cousin was in reference to like everyone in the prison. If you were a trusted inmate, if you trusted this guy, he wasn't going to snitch on you. They called them cousins. Like, you're my cousin because I know we're like family. So he was known as Cousin Crow. That's how people knew him. So when he got out of jail, he decided to go on the straight and narrow, but most everyone in his hometown knew him as Cousin Crow. So he created Cousin Crow's Custom Crafts and began to work as a legitimate custom ship manufacturer, like to take old ships and fix them up and stuff like that. And he used his own connections with friends who were people who were having a hard time getting out of prison after just getting out of prison, and hired ex-cons to do a lot of work for him, including a lot of art. Specifically, the most famous, like the thing we know of Cousin Crow's Custom Craft today, it's like it's livery and all those, like, and all of those. If you go to the shop in Stanton in what was it called? Orison and Orison. You see all those graffiti murals? That's specifically done by an ex-con by the name of Tufo Donato, who did all of that stuff for Cousin Crow. So he slowly again gained his reputation as being a very good custom, modifier for ships. And in 2924, that's in 2924, this is when he started that. That in 2942, several years later, a luxury company approached him about tricking out a old Crusader Genesis, an aging Crusader Genesis Starliner, into a party boat, a party ship. And the way that they he did it for them, and the way that they kind of advertised it as, it was so much fun that it shouldn't be legal, as this kind of like custom cruise line that he built himself. And it was the campaign was so successful, his work was so successful that it caught the eye of Drake Interplanetary, who had heard that his first love was the Cutlass. So Jan Dredge personally invited him to the viewing of the first Krakens. And they asked him if he would do a custom skin, a custom livery for the Kraken. And he did a counter proposal saying, no, what you need is a custom version of the Kraken. Saying that you have a flying space station. I've worked on Banu ships my whole life. I know how Banu merchantmen work. I know why they work. I know how Banu markets work. You want a ship that can beat a Banu merchantman because you have a flying space station. I can make you a human Banu merchantman. And so they hired him to create the Kraken Privateer. That is entirely a Cousin Crow's custom craft ship, entirely made by him. And that was the money that got him to really expand his business. After that whole thing started, he was approached by Crusader, who were very impressed with his work on their old Genesis for that luxury. And the CEO asked him to oversee their custom department for Genesis. So he's the lead engineer, Cousin Crow, Nampo Vasco, is the lead engineer for Crusader Industries for their custom Genesis Starliner rolls. So anytime they do there's a custom order for Genesis Starliner, he's the one who oversees all of that work, which is why Cousin Crow's Custom Crafts' second location ever outside of New Junction Low is in Orison. So some things you don't really know about the Star Citizen universe, and kind of show you how not only is the Star Citizen universe kind of big and vast and has lots of different depth and details and interesting people, it also has a lot of connections to the game we play now. The lore is very in depth, those sort of things. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Let me know in your thoughts below if you watch this on YouTube. Of course, let me know your thoughts below if you want to hear more about this, if you like this sort of thing, questions, comments about this sort of thing. A little rougher than I normally would do, but hopefully I can edit some of that stuff out. And, watch Office Hours Thursdays at 9 p.m. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. And remember, ex Historia ad Astra. My cat was very hungry. You stick around for an after party. Sorry, I was just handicapped. For those you know, I think I got raided by Vertigo. I did, which is why the I Can Fly, I Can Pilot came in. Hey, Vertigo. You just came in. Like, I do a section of these live streams where it's just specifically designed for YouTube so that they can, people who are watching on YouTube after the fact, be like, oh yeah, I should go watch this live. So, I swear I've heard this story before, and I think it was Paul telling the story before too. Yeah, the Gemini story. Yeah, I've told the story multiple times, and the IAE story. But I didn't really put together the fact that they were both done at the exact same time. We're like a live studio audience. Yeah, just for this part. You guys have any questions about any of this stuff? Hey, Judge Conan. This is the repair shop for the arms and legs and me and my good friends? Yes. Did I see the new Jump Point and the Gemstone liveries? I haven't, no. The Jump Point came out like while I was preparing to go live with Jumptown. So, how did you enjoy Jumptown there? Vertigo. I think Crow spun his prison reputation to a role as an honorable bad boy. It makes perfect sense for Drake approach. Exactly, it's exactly what Drake was looking for, and the fact that he was a diehard, like dyed in the wool fanboy, Drake fanboy, makes a lot of sense. What's the last name of the custom craft legend engineer? Nampo Vasco. Nampo Vasco. Vasco. Not Vasco, but Vasco. Hey, they've got the rock lore in here too. Nice. And Stegman's. Oh yeah, they've got the new skins. That's cool. It's a great story for the reformation of Drake reforming its reputation. Yeah. It's the perfect comeback story about a reformed criminal helping Drake reform its image. What his first works were like in Space Hot Rods and Space Lowriders. I think it's pretty much it. I mean, he was mostly making smuggling ships. That's from the lore. He was mostly making like smuggling craft and craft designed to outrun the law or kind of keep low on it. But his first like legitimate work was probably like customs like that, like lowriders and stuff. I'd love to have Paul do a segment of streaming tools he uses. He clearly has experimenting with a bunch of to find the ones he uses. I experimented with a lot of stuff. But I also had, over time, I've earned more money through streaming, which has allowed me to purchase like the camera I have now. And like this overlay is literally just I started experimenting with it, and then I hired Darj. I pretty much used the XSplit on for most of it, but yeah. Yeah, the latest Jumptown throws more oil on the Audi fire and mentions a room with cartography radar scanners for jump point mapping. That's interesting. You think my chat is broke? No, no one's talking right now, Robert. That's why. What you're seeing over here is Twitch chat. Hey, Phantom. I'm going to call it a day here because Cam's come home and I haven't made dinner yet. So, got a lot of stuff started a little bit, but, you know. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed yourselves. If you did, hit that follow button on Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. We're doing some gangbuster work. Like last I checked on YouTube, we've got, double check right now. We're at 11,353 subscribers. On Twitch, we're at 14,230 subscribers, which is insane. Y'all rock. Make sure you check out the latest Lore Citizen if you want a long talk about lore. That's we talked about the end of the measures, and we have Space Tomato there as well. So, yeah. Hopefully you enjoy this. And thank you again for all the raids from Old Boy and HG Vertigo. I'm not going to be back probably. I'm not going to be back tomorrow because it's Christmas Eve. I will maybe be back on Saturday if I can get enough people for the Captain's Table, but we're probably just going to do the Captain's Table. We're not going to do like a bunch of other things. So have a Merry Christmas for those of you who celebrate. If you're having vacation or whatever, if you're on vacation, enjoy your holiday, whatever it be, no matter what faith or nationality you subscribe to. I hope you have a pleasant and faith nationality you subscribe to. Whatever. No matter who you are, have a nice, pleasant, comfortable, relaxing holiday season. And I will see you all on at least Sunday. At the very least, I'll see you on Sunday, but possibly on Saturday. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.